What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Bladen Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time in Matthew Spawnhour and Theo Ash. We have a great episode planned for you all today. We're going to go over the top landing spots for the quarterbacks in the NFL draft, talk about the NBA MVP race, as well as take a look at some teams that could make a potential finals run. But before we get into all of that, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing today? And Theo, you're looking quite dapper today, if I do say so myself.
Thanks. I just put this shirt on. The thing, like on these Sunday recordings, we do them at 11 a.m. Pacific time. So when you ask like, how's your day been on these Sunday recordings, I really don't have much to report because on Sundays, I don't really wake up early.
My bad. How's your weekend? How was your weekend? I'll start asking.
My weekend's been good. I helped out at a little festival in Mesa, Arizona. They're like community city like gathering that they do in their little park, and I helped set up a painting station, and it was just a very cool scene. I miss working outside. I mean, it's obviously nice to just have the podcast as a job, and it's, we get paid to just talk about sports, but I'll always like miss kind of being outside and like some physical labor, So I was actually like, what do you need me to do?
Being outside as soon as you're a sports podcaster, that's it. They don't let
we haven't touched grass in a long time. So it's nice to be out there and like seeing other people instead of just a screen and a ring light. And
Theo
getting
hates
some
us,
sun.
actually.
No, I was just having a good time. There was a petting zoo there. I just said, "What's up to a cow?"
I had a decent start to my day. I ordered DoorDash from Wendy's, and they just gave me an entire extra bag of food. I've never had, not even one extra thing, a whole nother bag.
That's because they were like, "Oh, this is Spawn Hour." I remember how many good things he's said about the Cincinnati football team, and they were like, "This guy's been a good ambassador to the city, and we got to give him that extra bag of food."
I show some love to the city. The city shows me love back.
What was in the extra bag?
I like just nuggets and one of like those cheesy fries they have at Wendy's. It wasn't my order. It's not my go-to, but it's in the fridge now. I'll probably have some of it later.
Fair enough. Well, just a reminder to everyone to subscribe to the YouTube channel. I don't know any holidays that are coming up, but tax day is coming up pretty soon.
Easter's coming up.
Isn't
it like
Easter's coming up? Easter's next weekend. So
isn't it Palm Sunday today? It is Palm Sunday.
So today is Palm Sunday. Friday is tax day, and then next Sunday is Easter, right?
All reasons to subscribe.
All reasons to subscribe. Yes.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make this podcast keep growing. But let's just hop into some football, because we love football here at the Stay Hot podcast. We're talking about quarterbacks and their landing spots for the draft. Theo, you said you've kind of already started doing this a little bit. So
yeah, I mean, we're trying to match, like, I think when you look at quarterback, situation matters as much as like your talent. You can, if you go to the wrong place, you go to the wrong fit, you can get messed up, Obviously talent matters a lot too, but we talked to Jordan Palmer about this, how it's like, oh, it was so perfect that Josh Allen, kid who went to Wyoming, grew up in like a smaller town, didn't go to like New York or somewhere. He went to Buffalo, like something like that. Or, sometimes you just get these perfect fits. And I tried to look at some of the rookie quarterbacks that we've got, because I think fit is going to be especially important this year, when I don't think a lot of them are as talented and as like scheme proof as we've seen in years past. So I was looking at them and I was trying to figure out like, where do I think they would have the best chance to succeed? And I guess here's the list I've come up with, and I don't know where I'll start. I guess I'll start with the guy I just talked about on YouTube, Howell, a guy that I don't like. And I don't like him because he doesn't throw with a lot of anticipation. Like, you go watch Howell highlights, there's a lot of good throws there, but they're all leading a wide receiver towards empty space. Like, a go ball is really nice and he throws a really nice deep ball, but if there's no one out in front of the wide receiver, it's honestly, I think, a little bit easier than people think. Like, that is not a closing window, and it doesn't require like an advanced knowledge of defenses. If there's like, oh, the safety went to the other side, I've got a one-on-one, I'm just going to throw it out there and let him track it. So I think he needs a lot of time, basically. I think like he needs to learn how to do that. And I think he needs to sit. He's not someone I trust. Again, coming from a scheme, very heavy RPO, not a lot of like over the middle, tough reads. So I went with Indianapolis for Sam Howell. Like, it's been so long since Indianapolis has actually drafted a guy that they've like can claim for themselves. It's been like Wentz and Rivers and like Brissett and all these different guys they've rotated through since Luck retired. So, and they're going to be pretty good. So they're probably never going to be in a position to draft like a number 1 overall pick or number 2. They've got too much talent to do that. So if they've got a second round pick and it's Howell and because he's got talent, like the dude can move. He's a decent runner. He does have a nice arm who can push the ball down the field. So I feel like him learning behind Matt Ryan for a little bit, and then maybe if they feel comfortable, like handing the reins over to him, that could be a decent situation for Howell and the Colts playing with Frank Reich. So that was my Howell pick. I don't know if you guys have thought about this at all.
Howell, I do like that kind of fit for Howell. I wasn't sure if Indy was the spot, but definitely going to learn behind Matt Ryan, I think is probably about as good of a quarterback as you can learn behind.
And I've thought about this a lot. Like learning behind a quarterback for a year is very good. Like you look at all like Breeze didn't start right away. Rodgers didn't start right away. Mahomes didn't start right away. Brady didn't start right away. Like Brady. It's like a lot of the great quarterback. That's why like Lance this year, I see a lot of people who are off the Lance train because they're like, oh, he couldn't beat out Jimmy G this first season. And it's like Shanahan.
He wasn't supposed to beat out Jimmy. Like,
Shanahan said since the jump that he wasn't beating out Jimmy G. And like Mahomes didn't beat out Alex Smith. You know, does that make it like, does that mean people should have been low on him? So I think sitting behind a guy for a year is a really good option. And I would basically every quarterback in this class I'd like to see sit a year, maybe.
Lamar didn't start right away.
Baker
didn't start right away.
Everything we have said, I don't mean to like change the topic to my own team, but everything we have said bodes so poorly for the Panthers. Oh, it's like you talk about how Josh Allen is like it's a good situation to be in Buffalo. It's like the right fit for him. I don't see any quarterback fitting in well with how toxic the Panthers are right now. They're not a good offensive situation, and they're going to have to play from day one, guaranteed.
Right.
Does any quarterback sound like it would be a good fit?
No, Carolina? In fact, none of these. I'm not going to mention. There's always a better situation than Carolina, it seems like. Well, first of all, their owner is getting like slandered by the U.S. Senate.
I thought that was so funny when I saw that. I know what you're talking about. The state senator was like, this guy stinks.
These owners, basically the senator is like, well, senators, I guess I don't know much about the senators, and United States senators are not actually always the brightest bulbs in the chore. So I don't know. I don't know this guy's history.
About it other than
we're gonna have the CIA. We're gonna have the CIA doxing our podcast out.
But yeah, Rule is bad. Like the offensive line is still not good. The ownership seems to be poor.
Look at like the Lions, for example. We've been talking about how good of a situation they are because you have that option to sit for a year. The culture of the team is extremely strong. Won 3 games, but extremely strong culture. Yes. And then a good offensive line. And honestly, I think the receivers, if they invest in this draft, they're not going to be bad either. So that's like exactly the type of situation that you would want to go to if you were a quarterback, and the Panthers are the exact opposite.
Yes.
I think the Lions, if we want to move on to another guy, I think the Lions are a really good fit for Desmond Ridder. Like I think of the Lions as like Matt, you said, they have a great culture. It's just a bunch of guys that have bought in. They want to be there. If you follow them on, I don't know if we all follow them on TikTok, right? They when they post stuff, I'm like, that's a fucking family right there. And Desmond Ridder to me is a family guy.
He has a kid.
He has a kid. It makes perfect sense for Desmond Ridder to go to that kind of a team.
I think that you need to be kind of a football psycho for Dan Campbell to like you. And I think that Ridder is a little bit of a psycho. I really do. Like I've said this before, but I've like watching him mic'd up in practices and like the stuff he says. And it's it's a little insane. Like the example I always think of is when his teammate like catches him on a scramble and like two-hand touches him down because he's a redshirt quarterback, obviously, so you can't tackle him. And then he just like jibes at him a little bit because he caught him, and he's like, "Oh, you're slow. You're too slow, dude." And he walks off muttering, "I'm not too slow. I'll show him." Like literally Ritter's walking off like, and it might be because he's playing it up for the mic'd up. I don't know what he's doing, but he's a little bit
That's
psycho.
what I would have.
He's a little, but like still, that's like
That's
a little
not a bad
bit
thing to have in a quarterback at all.
No, it's in fact, I think it's ideal. I want my quarter. Like, there's not one normal dude who's a good quarterback. I think they're all crazy. I remember
weird.
Will Blackman. I was on a podcast with Will Blackman for Blue Wire, and he was talking about Matt Ryan, who you might say is like a normal dude, but he went to Boston College with him, and he was talking about how like he was a freshman, and Matt Ryan walked in, and he like threw a pick in practice, like when he was a freshman, and he walked off and he pointed right at the head coach, who apparently was like this very kind of like tough dude. And he's like, "I don't want to hear a fucking word from you." And then he turned over to the offensive coordinator, "And I don't want to hear from you either." And he was like, like walking in just like that. You've got to be a psycho to win at quarterback. And I think Dan Campbell likes those types of guys. And I think Ritter also is that type of dude. So I think he would fit into the culture there. Plus there's the good offensive line.
Yeah.
Yes,
Aiden Hutchinson. And then is another guy they want. And I could see Aiden Hutchinson and then trading up for Desmond Ritter being a very Detroit draft.
I mean, they have pick 32.
I think you'd have to trade. If you really liked Desmond Ritter, this is why I think he'll go a little bit higher than people expect. You're not going to sit there and be like, "Oh, I hope he falls to 32."
Right.
Yeah, the other one I wrote down because I there's kind of two that I like. I like the Seahawks too. The Seahawks are a team, like, I don't know how they do it because their timeline is weird. The Seahawks, where I kind of think like Pete Carroll's old. He might be the oldest coach in the league, right?
He is, I think.
Yeah. So are they really going to do this like long term? They got an offer. Apparently the Jets offered the number 10 overall pick for DK Metcalf, is a report that I saw. And they said no. That's just a report that I saw. They haven't dealt Lockett. They haven't dealt DK. Pete Carroll's old. All right. It's not this long-term rebuild, I think there. And they need an adult in the room at quarterback. Like, as much as I like Drew Lock, you just don't want to put all your chips on him. You don't. I still think that he has some potential. I'm not totally writing him off, but Ritter there to me seems like he could, like, a Corral versus Lock quarterback room is just like a little immature. I don't know. They're just a little like, I don't know. They're both.
I see.
I don't know. So I think that like Seattle is also a place that might work. Detroit and Seattle. As far as Corral goes, I like Washington. RPOs are kind of a staple.
I thought too.
They're kind of a staple in their offense. He wouldn't have to start right away because of Wentz. So that's where I wrote down, just mostly because of the RPO connection. That's probably the most RPO heavy team that needs a QB is Washington. You might be able to get Corral late first round, trade up. I don't know if you need to take him at 11. I don't know if Corral falls to round 2 or what, but I like that there. And then who else?
My fit for Corral was actually Atlanta. I made a video about this for FanDuel, but I think having Mariota there, I think that's kind of the ideal bridge for you, is like Mariota to Corral or Mariota to even Willis. I think wouldn't be bad either.
Willis is who I wrote.
Let me ask you guys this. How often does a designated bridge quarterback work?
Well,
Alex Smith to Mahomes.
Alex Smith wasn't even really a bridge quarterback, though.
Yeah.
That was their honest to God QB for a while, and he was good. He was a really good quarterback.
That didn't work because Tyrod played one game. That played one game.
Same thing with Tyrod and Cleveland. And
yeah,
I think about all the guys. It's good to sit a quarterback for a year, but if you bring in a guy who is like a borderline starter for the sake of sitting your rookie a year, how often does that actually play out?
But what's the alternative? Is you just say fuck it, we're starting him.
I mean,
yeah, that's not a.
And it's better than going through the.
But with Herbert and Baker, they were guys that you were like, yeah, we could start this guy right away, but let's have the option to sit him. Like those guys you
Right.
could have reasonably started day one, but are you starting Corral day one? Probably not. Like with most of these guys, we're kind of in consensus that you're probably wanting to sit them.
That's true. That's true.
And you probably didn't bring Mariota. I don't think you.
I wasn't saying that you're wrong about Corral to Atlanta or that Mariota will start or that, there's some perfect situation. I just think that I've noticed bridge quarterbacks. I feel
history
like don't work.
suggests that they would get sick of Mariota and they would put in the shiny first round rookie, I think. But I agree. I did Willis for kind of the same reason, where it's like Mariota is capable enough where maybe you feel comfortable sitting him for a year. Although I will say Mariota has played for Arthur Smith before and it went terribly and he got benched.
Yeah.
So he might not even.
Well, the other
I think
thing
people
is, like,
are kind of overrating
Corral,
Mariota.
Maybe. But if you send Corral to my concern with sending Corral to Washington is I feel like if we have a problem with like Drew Lock, the Drew Lock Corral QB battle, I feel like a Wentz QB battle or like a Wentz bridge might not be much better.
Wentz is better than Locke by a
It's not about being better. I'm talking about like a much.
I think Atlanta would be stupid to waste their time and not play their guy if they draft someone. Is Atlanta going to be competitive this year? No, right? They're just not built to do it. I'd rather take someone, play them the full year, don't mess around, and then you'd probably. I know it's only 1 year with a rookie quarterback, but you know what you'd have to an extent, and then you'd be going into the next draft. And if let's say you draft Willis and he's terrible, well, you would then probably be the worst team in a strong quarterback draft class and you'd have the number one overall. But if you try to if you just squeak by enough games, then you don't know whether you have your quarterback and you don't know whether you should take one of the guys in the 2023 draft, it puts you in a position to make a tough call.
I like a mobile quarterback to Atlanta because this is why I did Willis, because he's mobile and they have the worst rushing attack in the league and they need a lot of things to fix it. They need I guess they still have Cordero Patterson now, who's kind of a running back, kind of a wide receiver. But I look at how the addition of Kyler Murray impacted the Arizona rushing attack. When they had Rosen, they were the worst rushing attack in football. They got Murray. They didn't really make any improvements to their offensive line, and they still haven't. And the efficiency that quarterback runs typically operate with when you have a good running quarterback is through the roof. It's insane. So I think going from you have the worst rushing attack in football, and if you add, they already kind of have this with Mariota, who's mobile, but if you add Willis to that and add a mobile quarterback, not only could you be improving the passing side of it, it also could completely transform your rushing attack as well. So that's why and all the quarterbacks in this class outside of Strong are relatively mobile. So it's not it's unique to Willis, but he's also from Georgia, which again, I kind of take into account is he'll probably be comfortable in that city, in that space and, near family or whoever. I don't know. I guess I don't know that for a fact, but I do think getting drafted in a state, in a location that you're familiar with is a plus. And that's kind of why I went with Pickett to Pittsburgh as well, because they want a mobile guy. Pickett is someone who I don't think is super naturally talented. I really don't think his arm is that big. And if you listen to Chris Sims, who is not, I disagree with a lot of his rankings all the time, but I do respect them because he definitely thinks them through, right? You listen to his podcast, he definitely gives it's not just doing it for shock value. I legitimately think he truly scouts these guys and believes what he's saying, even though I always frequently disagree. But he's if you draft Pickett or you draft a quarterback or maybe it wasn't Chris Sims. I can't remember who is saying this now, but if you have Darnold, right? Really naturally talented dude, athletic dude, when you're in practice and you add maybe a Pickett to practice who's not super talented, you're well, Darnold's still
Sims tweeted that.
Okay.
I saw that,
yeah. He's Darnold is not in a practice situation. You're going to have to roll with the clearly less talented guy. And that's a hard pill to swallow sometimes. So that's why I did Pickett to Mitch Trubisky, Pickett and Mitch Trubisky, because you wouldn't have to swallow that pill if you're Pittsburgh that oh my God, our other guy is so naturally gifted and so mobile and can hit all these throws. Trubisky's not that. So if he goes to Pittsburgh, he went to college in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh wants a mobile guy, which Pickett is. I think that could be a decent fit as well.
I think they really want Willis, though.
I think so too, but Willis,
I think,
yeah.
My guess is that the Steelers have been playing with a ancient Big Ben who has, made the offense really limited, and they haven't been able to do a lot. And I think they might see a guy like Willis and how, like, it would open up their offense a ridiculous amount to go from someone, Big Ben, who's just getting a little old, to Willis, who can, make all the throws and is mobile and whatnot. I think that might be the change.
You think about who their first round pick was last year, Najee Harris, and it's like, well, he couldn't really find any big rushing lanes because their offensive line was so bad. It was
That's a good point.
What did we just talk about? A Willis would do to a run game. It would bust it wide open. So
it would be fascinating to watch because Willis and Big Ben just could not be more different. So it's like, if you think of like fit and like, what do we know the Pittsburgh Steelers to do? Like, Big Ben, fastest release in football, getting the ball out quickly to the first, like, to diagnosing the defense, finding the guy who's going to be open and just getting it to him as fast as possible. Like, very, very much the mental side of the game could not be more different with Malik Willis, which would be a really interesting to see how they would approach that shift. So I don't know. Those are probably about all I've got for like the quarterback fits. Just some teams out there that I think make a little bit of sense for everybody. Not so much a mock, but just kind of where I think guys would be in a position to succeed.
What do you think about Corral? Corral could fit in Atlanta. Corral could fit in Pittsburgh.
Right. It's not. I think with Corral, Washington is like, again, he does not have a lot of experience running this very pro style. Like, the offense he ran at Ole Miss is just the complete opposite of like an NFL offense. It's just so different than what you're going to see anywhere. So he needs a year to, like, he definitely is someone I do not feel comfortable with operating a NFL offense right away. And if he's going to, I would rather it be Washington's, because they've incorporated a lot of RPOs and stuff like that into their game anyway. They've got a strong offensive line and Antonio Gibson that they can like have the heavy. So like, that's why Washington, of all places to me, like Pittsburgh would work, anywhere that needs a mobile quarterback, he could get picked. But like, ideally, like 10 out of 10 fit is Washington.
Pittsburgh is like, well, you get a mobile guy, but then if you're like still worried about like, well, we lose the aspect of Big Ben's quick release, Corral might have one of the faster releases in this class.
Is there a team that Matt Corral doesn't fit with?
Green Bay. It would be kind of a weird pick. Hey, I mocked him to the Buccaneers, which I think is a really interesting.
I do think Corral has like to a team that wants to sit a quarterback. I think Corral's a pretty good option.
Yes, because Corral is interesting because he can run it and he has a big arm too and a quick release and decent mechanics. But Willis is getting all the hype as like this project with all the tool. Like, Corral has not done anything in the pre. Corral is not. I don't love Corral or Willis. That's my thing. But like, it is a little strange to me how Willis is like could be the number 2 overall pick to the Lions, and you just haven't heard like a smidgen of hype for Corral, who is not like off a cliff from a talent perspective. But I kind of think the Buccaneers are an interesting quarterback destination that nobody is talking about because they drafted Trask last year in the 2nd round. But Trask is not that guy. I'm sorry, he is not, and I think they're figuring that out.
You don't have to apologize. No one is saying he's that guy.
He is. Florida fans think he's that guy. He is not that guy. Like, Brady probably has 1 year left. They're going to be really good. They're not going to have a high first round pick last year. If Brady's gone next year, like, what they were in a situation where they were staring like just no plan in the face. So maybe they would want to be like, well, Brady's probably going to be gone next year. We would like to maybe invest in someone who might actually be talented, which Kyle Trask is not. So I think the quarterback, like, it would really be a tough scene to spend a 2nd on Trask and then spend a 1st on the quarterback the next year. And I don't think that will happen, but I think like, man, we've got a quarterback who you basically know is on like a finale on your team here, who's 45 or whatever he is. And your backups are Blaine Gabbert and Kyle Trask. And like, no one has even like remotely floated the Bucs as a quarterback possibility. And it's like, again, it's probably not going to happen, but it wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me.
What do you think happens with Strong? Because I think a team is going to spend a real pick on him.
I like Strong too. I don't even think Strong is that. The thing, it's just the degenerative knee is so scary. Like, oh my God, could be horrible. He's moves like 2015 Peyton. Like he just can't, he's so slow, so slow. And he's just a little bit too much of a throwback. But I do think he can make calls at the line of scrimmage, and he can audible, and he can be commanding the offense instead of like Willis, who will look towards his sideline and like listen for the coach yelling at him, and like he doesn't do anything himself, or Corral or something like that. Like Strong can make those calls. He's got the big arm. He's somewhat accurate, and he has good eyes. I think like he can read the field decently well. So I actually kind of like Strong. It's just that knee. I don't know where it fits with Strong. Just because it's just not a lot of places that seem like they could really use like he doesn't really need a year. Like that's the thing. He's kind of like readier now, it seems like, because he's got that grasp of the thing. So maybe the Seahawks, if they go like edge rusher at number 9, and then like they want someone who is like Ritter gets scooped up by the Lions or someone like that in the late first round, and they're not really a team that likes to trade up or anything. So maybe they take someone like I have no idea. They trade back for Ebiketie or something, or they take Karlaftis, or they take, who knows who the Seahawks will take. They always take someone weird. But like maybe in the second round or third round, they go with Strong, and that's their more like level. Like, I don't know. Like they're more like level-headed quarterback.
It's like a Dak Prescott-esque pick.
So that could be maybe the Seahawks. Maybe the Seahawks if they can't get Ritter or something like that. If the Panthers had the pick
for it, I'd say that it makes sense for them. But
yeah, maybe. So he's kind of a wild card, because I actually do kind of like him, but it is a tough scene to swallow that knee. It's a tough pill to swallow. So anyway, that's all the quarterbacks. Let's get into some NBA stuff.
You know what's not a tough pill to swallow?
Let's trade NFL for NBA here.
You know what's not a tough pill to swallow? Stay Hot's #1 meal kit, HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get fresh, pre-measured ingredients and mouthwatering seasonal recipes delivered right to your door. And HelloFresh lets you skip those trips to the grocery store and makes home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. And that's why I said it's America's #1 meal kit. Ingredients travel from the farm to your doorstep in under a week, so they always arrive fresh, all without a trip to the grocery store or the farmer's market. You can pick your favorites from 50 different weekly options, and you can skip weeks when you need to. You can change your delivery date or update your preferences, all in the HelloFresh app. Been a big fan of HelloFresh myself. You all know that.
Bladen will post. Yeah, Bladen is legitimately a big fan of HelloFresh. He'll always post on his like Instagram or Snapchat story like food, like a meal that he cooked, and he'll be like, "Wife me up" or something, or like, "I'm a chef," or like. And people who don't listen to the podcast, like his personal friends, probably think he actually cooked that. He didn't. It's just HelloFresh. I know as his podcast co-host what he's up to.
Okay. Yeah, you know what I'm up to, but like the girls on my Snapchat, they don't. So it's
why are you setting counts?
Why are you saying that HelloFresh doesn't count as really cooking it?
I mean, it kind of does.
It is kind of training.
It just has like a set of instructions to follow.
It does have instruction. It does. It gives you all the ingredients and tells you exactly what to do. So like, but here's the thing: if you're marketing yourself to girls, like I'm a great cook. Yeah. And they come over and you will at the HelloFresh. I love HelloFresh. It's
listen,
a good food. I'm just saying.
Are you telling me that
this should not dissuade you from getting HelloFresh that it's not cool? I'm trying to backtrack here for our sponsors, but maybe don't be like, it's so easy. That's why it's not like going to impress the host, because it's just too easy to make.
See, you're like,
but when they eat it, they'll be like, "Oh, I see the vision now. Maybe this isn't so bad, I guess." So maybe it is a good move, Bladen.
Don't hate my vision. All right. One of these days, we're gonna do a dating advice episode, and you're gonna realize just how successful I am. But go to go to HelloFresh.com/StayHot16. Use the code StayHot16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. Again, that's HelloFresh.com/StayHot16. Use the code StayHot16 if you want to be like me and get America's #1 meal kit. And I know we're going to trade the NFL to NBA, but before we do that, I got to talk about Trade Coffee. Our other sponsor, my parents have been getting Trade Coffee. And one thing that, they like about it is that if they don't like one of the coffees that they get, they can always get another one. They're like, oh, like they didn't like the first batch they got, but the second one they got, they're like, this is the best coffee I've ever had. And I'm like, you can't beat that. Trade Coffee connects customers to the freshest and best tasting coffee they've ever made at home by partnering with the country's best craft roasters. These are independent businesses, from big cities and small towns. Trade customers are truly impacted by these independent roasters and often being the largest source of new growth for them. Experts taste this coffee, right? Trade Coffee's team actually taste tests thousands of coffees to keep 450 different kinds live and ready to ship every single day. There's no one perfect coffee, but there is a perfect coffee for you. And Trade's human-powered algorithm will absolutely find it. They found it for my parents, that's for sure. And, Trade's first match guarantee. Trade is so confident that they'll match you right the first time that if they don't, they will take your feedback and actually send you a brand new bag for free. Trade has delivered over 5 million bags of fresh coffee with more than 750,000 positive reviews. So make sure you go on over to drinktrade.com/stayhot. They're offering a new deal for new subscribers, a total of $30 off your first order plus free shipping. That's over 40 cups of free coffee. Again, go on over to drinktrade.com/stayhot. Let Trade find you a coffee you'll love. That's drinktrade.com/stayhot for $30 off and free shipping. Now, NBA. We have the West is solidified, I'm pretty sure at this point. Yes. The East, we have a couple of things that could change up, but for the most part, it's set in stone. Who do we see as potential finals runs?
Grizzlies, Suns, Warriors in the West.
Okay.
Those are the only three.
No shit.
I'm sorry.
There's no one that you're just like, you nope. Couldn't be a little bit. You had to pick like.
Nope. Those are the only
everyone
three.
Is picking.
The list of teams in the West that would not surprise me. Those are the three. There's other teams that I think have an outside, like I could see, but would probably still be a surprise.
The Clippers is the only one where I am like, I can maybe see it happening if Kawhi Leonard comes back. But right now I'm operating under the assumption that won't happen, and they're going to have to play like the Suns or the Grizzlies in the first round, and they'll get beat. That's kind of what my expectation is. I think the Mavs, I think the Mavs could lose to the Jazz in the first round. That is my maybe a hot take. I don't think the Mavs are contenders. I really don't. I don't think that this team, yes, they've had more regular season success than in the past, but I just think Luka is the only guy there that is really, really scaring you. And I think it could end like all the years in the past have ended, where he goes off, but there's just not quite enough help around him to like, maybe they win the first game out of the first round this time. Like maybe they do. Maybe they could definitely beat the Jazz for sure. The Jazz are just known for collapsing. Their last couple losses, they've all blown huge leads. It's hilarious. But they also, I think, have more firepower like than the Mavs do. And Donovan Mitchell historically has stepped it up in the playoffs. Like he's not this like historical choker there. Usually, he'll have big games and they'll still end up losing, or Jamal Murray will go for 50 as well, is the series I always think of. So I don't know. I might even pick the Jazz to upset them in round one. I just don't think this iteration of the Mavs team is quite as different as in years prior. And I don't know. That's my take. That's my big take, is like, they're not legit. The Jazz aren't legit. The Timberwolves are nice, but they're not going all the way, in my opinion. They just don't have that kind of depth. And the Clippers, yeah, maybe Kawhi comes back, but if not, I don't see them going the whole way either. And that's a really, really big if. And even if he does come back, they still have to they still might not be as good as the Suns,
What about Denver? What's wrong with
Denver? Oh, right. Denver again. Just, maybe they come back full strength, but we haven't seen it. Is Jamal Murray just going to be back right away in a week? We haven't seen him all year. You just get okay now. I just don't know about that. And MPJ, maybe they come back fully healthy, but right now, again, I just don't think they have the depth. I don't think they have the injury luck. And just in general, just not as good as the top 3 teams where I see them, beating the Suns 4 out of 7 times, or even the Grizzlies right now. Those two, I think it'll be Suns Grizzlies.
They have Golden State in the first round.
I think they get first rounded.
Really? I feel like that's kind of their an ideal matchup.
Yeah, I mean, Golden State doesn't really have anybody in the paint that can maybe handle Jokic. They don't have that big man that you'd like to see match up against a center like him. But I don't know. I just think the Warriors, once the playoffs come around, and is Curry coming back? I guess the injuries, I feel like he will be back. Jordan Poole has really transcended into someone who's been playing like a bona fide star right now. So you've got Draymond, you've got Poole, you've got Clay, you've got Steph coming back, you've got Wiggins, you've got all these guys, you've got Kerr, who's so much experience winning in the playoffs. I'm just feeling more comfortable about the Warriors, provided they get Curry back, than the Denver Nuggets with just Jokic. And I guess I'm kind of making the assumption that Curry comes back and maybe Jamal Murray doesn't. So that might be wrong. And it's tough to really quite nail down a lot of these Western Conference teams because of everybody who's getting healthy right now, and we don't quite know who's going forward. But I think it's really if it's a team that is not the Suns, making a run all the way to the finals, if it's not the Suns, Grizzlies, or Warriors, it would be a quite the upset.
I think the Mavs are going to beat the Jazz.
Okay.
They're good defensively, and Spencer Dinwiddie has been really good for them. And I also don't feel like the Jazz have that great advantage of, having a bunch of different guys I trust to score either.
Sure.
Maybe it is Luka probably still doing more than you'd like him to, but there's worse things than Luka doing a lot of stuff. I think the Jazz are still really susceptible to, small ball.
Right.
I don't think that's changed. I think it's particularly true this year. And their chemistry has always been bad, or not always bad, but always struggled. I think that's particularly true now. So I have the Mavs coming out of the first round, I think.
Yes.
And as far as then they'd match up against the Suns. Yeah, I have the Suns beating them, but I'll at least give them the first round. Denver, I think, has a puncher's chance against the Warriors just because Curry's out. And I haven't seen the news about when he's supposed to come back, but
neither have I guess.
Is he playing today? Maybe
Let's check.
I genuinely he's still not practicing at full speed. That was 4 days ago. He didn't play last night. It's dude, you're asking to go from that to playoff level basketball. That's just a brutal ask.
It is. It is.
And then I do think that Denver is at least still a really good team, even if they're just built around one guy without Murray and Michael Porter Jr. And I don't think they're going to come back. But I do think they take it to at least 6 if Curry is coming back just day one.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're too deep. I think Poole is the key to everything. I think Poole is super legit. I think Poole would be the second best player on the Nuggets, assuming Jamal Murray doesn't come back. And I think Wiggins would be the second best player on the Nuggets. And maybe Draymond would be the second best player on the Nuggets. And Clay, maybe he'd be the second best player. Maybe I'm discounting Jokic's teammates too much, but I just think, and that's why we'll get into MVP. It's Jokic is now the favorite to win that. And I think he's been our MVP basically almost the entire time, except me a little bit when Curry was just crazy early in the season. But I mean, for months and months, we've kind of had it as Jokic, but I just don't know. I mean, this is kind of a similar Nuggets team to the one that scraped by the Trailblazers last year and then got swept by the Suns. And I just don't see enough difference to make me think like, oh yeah, they're going to go in and beat the Warriors, even if Curry is not 100%. I don't know. I like the Warriors. I think that they're scarier.
I feel like if you have the MVP on your team, you're always going to have that chance.
Of course.
To go, especially if Curry is going to be struggling to come back, and then let's say you can get past the Warriors. Who are you going up against next? Memphis?
I don't know. It could be anybody. I don't know. But right. I just don't think the Nuggets are well-rounded enough. That's my thing. I just don't think they have the depth. I don't. And maybe I'll look stupid and people will come back, or the Warriors are just terrible without Curry, because they have not been that good without Curry. That is, I guess, the caveat is their record has not been that good. So maybe I'm betting on a losing dog here, but I don't know. I just like depth in the playoffs. Fair enough. I mean, there's star power. I mean, it's different, I guess, if you have a LeBron on your team, but I don't know if anybody is even Jokic is quite at that level of carry.
Yeah, because LeBron can do everything. Jokic, isn't. LeBron.
So how healthy would Curry need to be for you to feel comfortable with the Warriors? Because if Curry's out, let's say if Curry was just out for the series, you'd be picking the Nuggets.
If Curry is healthy enough to play, I think they win. If Curry is playing, I am picking the Warriors. If I knew he was out for the entire series, then I might say the Nuggets, but I still think the Warriors would take him to 6 or 7. I don't think it would be a Nuggets
I think
sweep.
even a banged up Nuggets is a real threat to a Warriors team if Curry's banged up. I really do. Okay. I think Jokic is just so good. If there was any player in the league to be your entire offense, it'd be him. It really does help with that stuff. And their defense really isn't that great, so maybe that's their big downfall. But I like Jordan Poole too. Okay. Big guy for them.
Is there anyone on Golden State that you think can even go toe to toe with Jokic?
It's not really about who's this one guy who can match up with Jokic. He just does a good job creating mismatches. And
right. Jokic is not this dude like Giannis where it's oh my God, he's just unstoppable.
Who can we draw on him?
Who can we put on? Jokic is
offensively. I'm okay, let's say Curry comes back and he's not quite his normal self, right? Missing some shots, whatever. Now all of a sudden, who's getting those boards? Jokic. Right? If you're, offensively, you're not clicking as well. Who's getting the boards for your offense? Jokic, right? So it's just if things aren't going right, I feel like Jokic is kind of the difference maker. If things aren't going right in both directions, then Jokic is kind of the guy that is going to be able to take control, either defensively or offensively.
I think it just comes down to, if Jokic or not Jokic, if Curry's not playing, the Warriors offense won't be good. It's not going to, it's just, they need him.
Yeah, if Curry's not playing,
they're not going to have a win playoff game level offense or win a playoff series level offense, most likely, without Curry. And I like Jordan Poole, but who would be the second option on that team then? Wiggins, probably?
Wiggins. Kaminga's kind of come on. I don't know. You're definitely relying on Clay, who has not been phenomenal since coming back from injury. There's guys who
and I'm sure we'll get a great Clay game. I'm sure
there's guys who could do it. But yeah, it is tough to rely on. But I don't know. I guess I don't know. Maybe I'm too optimistic about Curry coming back. If Curry is not,
that's the thing. If Curry's 100% healthy, I agree with you.
It's so dumb to talk about it's so annoying to talk about the playoffs right now because it's this guy. There's so many guys who are probable or doubtful where it's they could just shift absolutely everything if they come back. And it's true of the Clippers, it's true of the Warriors, and it's true of the Nuggets where it's oh well, we're just waiting on these monsters who could turn the tide of the entire thing, but. I don't know. I feel like I would bet on the Warriors, which is not. I think they're the higher seed, the favorites. So
I'll say I think Curry. Yeah, I think Curry has way better odds of coming back. Than
right. That's where I'm at. That's
from what
I'm
I've seen, at least. So okay, I can get down with that. I do think they're going to be competitive. I do think Jokic gets a couple games.
Right, Jokic is going to get his. That I don't doubt. I would Jokic is definitely going to get his. But to me, this is not that different of a Nuggets team that again struggled mightily but got swept by the Suns last year, and it was a pretty even series, I think, with that Trailblazers team.
But the Suns went to the
yeah, but they got swept. They didn't get a game off the Suns, and I know they were injured, but they're injured right now, and like I don't know what exactly but I feel like that.
I do think the Nuggets have solid role. I don't want to make this just about Jokic.
No, it's not just Jokic.
Like, the Suns have a lot of guys there who I think are very solid role players and are going to go play tough, ready to play tough playoff level basketball, but.
The Warriors do too. That's my thing.
Losing two guys like that. Well, yeah, of course the Warriors do too. But losing two guys like Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray is just hard to see pulling off an away series against a top 4 seed. That hurt.
Yes, I'm also not sure if the Clippers. It'll be very interesting. The Pelicans are playing the Warriors today. If the Clippers can even get out of the plans, because I really do think the Pelicans could really do that. And I know they just got beat up by the Grizzlies, who scored 55 points in a quarter. But before that, again, they're just blowing the brakes off some bad teams. I guess they lost to the Clippers on April 3rd. So maybe we do got to expect the Clippers to come out of there. But I don't even know if it's a guarantee that the Clippers get that chance, because I still do like the Pelicans and the Timberwolves maybe to come out of the plans. I think the Pelicans... and again, Zion's a guy, like, he's just waiting in the wings too. Again, there's so many just like tide turning scenarios that like could happen, but we are just not sure. So I don't know.
My gut tells me
no for Zion.
Most of the guys that we're talking about are going to be no's. I think Curry, probably everyone. I really think Kawhi rushing back for the playoffs to then like need to win a play-in game, and then if you lose to the Timberwolves, you have to play the Suns round 1. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. That seems like a play it safe situation to me, at least.
Yeah. So that's the West. I guess since it's set, who do you have? I said Pelicans versus Timberwolves coming out of the plans. I'm going to stick with that. In the last episode, I talked about how I changed my mind too much. So I'm going to stick with it, and I'm going to have it be which would make it probably Timberwolves versus Grizzlies round 1, which is definitely, the Timberwolves are definitely going to be a popular upset pick there, but the Grizzlies are just a buzzsaw right now, man. I mean, we've seen them, they set the record for biggest blowout in like the history of the NBA this year against against a pretty beat up Thunder team, but they just set the record for most points in a quarter, or third most points in a quarter. I mean, this is a historically good Grizzlies team. This is probably the best Grizzlies team we've ever seen. They are locked in.
I believe in Ja too. That's the big thing. I know. I feel very good about their big star showing up, and that's half the battle right there. In the playoffs.
Don't think it's going to be like a Julius Randle situation where he's going to fold. They were there last year. There was a quote where it's the quote. The quote is like, the Grizzlies just seem ready to win a finals. They do. They seem like locked in. The Timberwolves are not beating this Grizzlies team as much as they've improved and as much star power as they have. Like the depth the Grizzlies have versus the depth the T-Wolves have, I think it's just on completely different levels.
I think because the Grizzlies have like come along so quickly that people almost look at them and they're like, yeah, they're a second seed, but are they really like a second seed? It's how a lot of times a team can be a high seed.
Like the Suns last year. Like
the Grizzlies are real contenders, just like the Suns. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it absolutely. I think the Grizzlies win that series, perhaps rather easily as well. I don't know, and I like the T-Wolves, but the Grizzlies are terrifying right now with how much they do well.
The one thing I would be scared of if I'm like a Memphis fan is if you play Minnesota and they give you hell. You win the series, but they give you a little bit of hell. Maybe it's 6 or 7 games. And then you go into a series against, I don't know if it would be, depending on who wins in the first round. I don't know if it would be Golden State.
They're going to play the winner of the Warriors Nuggets if all the seeding is set. Okay. And I think it is.
Okay. So let's say the Warriors win that game. They win that series. Curry's healthy. Clay's good, right? Curry's good. Then you have a Warriors team that can give you hell. Let's say you win that series. But all of a sudden, you're going against the 1 seed Phoenix Suns that are fantastic, and you've had to play back-to-back tough series.
Well, it's the playoffs. Everyone's playing tough series.
No, I think you're 100% right. I think For a 2 seed, Timberwolves, that sucks, dude. That's not an easy enough matchup so where you feel really good about that.
Yeah.
If you have to go that to Warriors, assuming Curry's healthy, if they get back like 100%, and then Suns, that's a brutal path. I know it's the playoffs.
Even if it's Denver, it's like you go from
Denver. I think you'd feel
but you have to play the MVP, which we'll get to.
He's great, but like if they don't get healthy at a point,
they got swept. He was the MVP last year. Yeah, he was the MVP last year. They weren't healthy. They got swept. The Nuggets depend on these guys. Like Jokic is great. He's my MVP, and we'll talk about the MVP. But yeah, no, I think like just because he's the MVP does not prevent them from getting swept in the second round. All right, but anyway, and then it's Suns.
Bad news.
Suns Pelicans or Suns Clippers. Suns are just too good to lose in the first round. I mean, they just find ways to win each and every night. They're the best clutch team in the league by far. They're probably one of the best clutch teams of all time.
I love how we're just like ignoring the Spurs entirely.
The Spurs
actually do have like pretty much just as good a chance to get in. But I think here's my problem with the Spurs and the Pelicans. It probably does not matter that much in the grand scheme of things. Like this is the team that's going to go play this. I'm not picking them to upset the Suns around 1 regardless.
Right.
The Spurs, we are discounting the Spurs, though. They have pretty much just as good a chance.
They do.
Making it out as the Pelicans.
They're just not my pick, so it's like we talked about them more in the play-in episode. So that's why we're not talking about the Spurs. And they're not winning a first-round matchup against anybody. I'm sorry. They're just not. So, yeah, the Suns are beating. I don't even care if it is the Clippers. And even if it's the Clippers with Kawhi back, I'm pretty damn confident in the Suns' ability to win games this year. And again, people will talk about, they don't have like a top 10 player. They don't have a top 5 player. They don't have that high end guy. And it's like, I don't think it matters, man. Again, they're in the mold of the old Spurs team, the 2014 Spurs, who was their best player at that point. It may have been an old ass Tim Duncan or an old ass Tony Parker. It's like, these are not dominant players anymore. And they still were just locked in and really well coached and cohesive. And they would win. They just cruised to the finals and beat a Heat team that had like LeBron James and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. So it's like, that's the type of mold that the Suns are in. And we haven't seen it for a while because we have seen super teams like the Warriors dominate. We've seen LeBron James at the peak of his powers. So it's been a while since we've seen like these just like well-rounded teams, maybe without a top 5 player win. And it's just the Suns are in that mold. And I just have a lot of faith in them and how clutch they've been. And just they just find ways to win. It doesn't matter if they're down in the fourth quarter. They don't blow leads like the Jazz, who will just like routinely like be up 20 and just watch it disappear in a second. They just win. They're so cohesive. They're so everything. It doesn't matter who they face. I'm confident in the Suns winning that series, and I think that's deserved. Even if I am a Suns fan, they're the best team in the league by a bunch of metrics, and wins being one of them. And there's just not a discernible weakness I can find unless you run into like Giannis. But again, there's no one who can really guard Giannis. And yeah, he's not in the West. So if we're talking about the Western Conference playoffs, it doesn't really matter.
I guess you could say the Suns are an easy pick. Just like our newest sponsor, PrizePicks, where they make daily fantasy super easy. I love this, and I know you will too. PrizePicks offers more NBA props than any other DFS operator and offers every player and stat category you can think of. You pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under on their projections, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry, and it's just you versus the projected numbers. PrizePicks allows mixed sports entries. Example, you could take, the over on Jokic. You can combine it with the under on Bryce Harper in the same entry. Users that deposit and use our promo code will receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. Just make sure you use our promo code STAYHOT. So don't hesitate. Check out prizepicks.com and use the code STAYHOT, or go to your app store, download the app today. PrizePicks is where they make daily fantasy easy. But yeah, let's talk about the MVP race, because we're pretty much sold on the fact that it's going to be Jokic, but I do think it's kind of sad that it won't be Embiid. I wanted it to be Embiid.
This is a Matt W, because I thought Embiid had it in the bag. I thought like any close race would result in an Embiid win, and he won the scoring title, and the 76ers are a high seed, and he's and now Jokic is the favorite. So maybe he still wins and it's an upset, but I was wrong. I thought like voter fatigue, and Matt, you go ahead because I just talked a lot, but I think like maybe the voters deserve a little bit more credit than maybe I give them for, and a lot of people give them credit for getting things right.
Jokic just didn't give him a choice. It's just too hard. Like, he's really, the supporting cast is not there. And we just spent a bunch of time talking about this. To get competitive for 50 wins, to have like a close to 50 win season while having your second and third star hurt isn't normal. And I realize that, the big argument is like, oh, well, they rarely give the MVP to 6 seeds, but 6 seeds also rarely win 50 games and have their second and third guy out. So that's why they're making the exception, and I think he's earned it. Embiid's had a great MVP level year. Same thing with Giannis. But at the end of the day, the being valuable to your team is getting them more wins, and it's hard to say that anybody contributed more to their team winning than Jokic did with the circumstances. Embiid did really good too, and I think that his supporting cast was also not like anything insane. Half a year of Harden, not even. But Tobias Harris and Tyrese Maxey and Harden now are it's a big difference between what he's working with and what Jokic is working with. Not to make it all about wins. Embiid's, gets doubled all the time. He's got the scoring champ still. Obviously, he's like, the heart and soul of that team, but I think they're making the right call.
I think so too. And like, yeah, it's Max. Yeah, they are making the right call. And it's not like this precedent that giving it to a 6 seed is like unfounded. I mean, it was 2017, right? That Westbrook won it. Yeah, they were a 6 seed that year. So that was,
and last year Curry was in the running. So it's really not,
it's not that crazy
to where you don't have to have the most wins. You just have to provide a lot of wins.
Yeah, it's not. I do think this is like the problem that the NFL, I think, has too, where we're just like, oh, we just give it to the best player on the best team.
Yeah.
Right. And it shouldn't be that.
It shouldn't be that.
If we're gonna label it as most valuable player, then it needs to go to the most valuable player, not the, as we referred to it when the NFL MVP race was going, the MOP, the most outstanding player.
Right. I think honestly, MVP voters get a lot of flack, and I guess I gave them some flack as well when I thought Embiid had it locked up, where I'm like, oh, there's voter fatigue. They don't want to give it to someone twice in a row. They just want to mix it up and maybe. But looking back on it now, the logic that they're going through with Embiid, Jokic here is the correct logic. If this is assuming the favorite's holding it goes to him, maybe it's not it, but like he is now pulled away, at least in the Vegas odds, an MVP, and working under the assumption that that's actually what's happening and he's going to win it. It's been a long time since I've had like a problem with who wins MVP, like a long time. Like basically when Giannis went back to back, or Jokic went back to back, or Curry, or even Westbrook when he had averaged a triple double the whole season. Some people thought those were empty stats. None of those are actually like bad or wrong MVP picks in my opinion. So the voters honestly have done a good job, and that NBA MVP award is not just a fatigue, because it's been won back-to-back twice now recently. And like I think that they've done a really good job actually picking MVP since maybe the days of LeBron. Maybe there was a little bit of fatigue. Maybe the days
LeBron
of like
deserved it so many years.
There were maybe some years where LeBron maybe deserve it over like Derrick Rose or something like that maybe. But since those days, MVP, not a lot of bones I have to pick with who gets it. And even if Embiid does end up upsetting Jokic, or Giannis does end up upsetting Jokic, that's not even like a horrible pick with no logic either. So it's not like Booker would win it or something like that. That would be the one where like the logic is just like off and they're just giving it based on like historical accomplishments instead of like nuance in this specific season. But Booker's not going to win it, and he's not going to get maybe even any votes. He might get a couple votes, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah, silence. That's that deafening silence. Yeah, the voters have done a good job, and shout out Jokic. I really thought it would be Embiid. I really thought the voters might just be like, yeah, even though Jokic
legitimately wanted it to be Embiid.
even though Jokic is number one in like this, that, and it's clear, like just watching the Nuggets, that he's working with the least help, and like he still has them out of the play-ins and in just a straight up like playoff matchup. It's like, despite all that, we got to give it to the best player on the best team, which is Booker. That would be the one where I'm like, oh, that's bad, or Embiid, even Embiid, where it's like Embiid is probably not as impactful all the way around as Jokic is with what Jokic does, just like creating offense and basically calling plays as a point center and creating offense all the way around. So it's the right pick, and I'm proud, I guess, of the voters for getting it right. And I guess I probably shouldn't be surprised based on historically. Don't
be proud yet. Don't be proud yet.
Don't be proud yet.
They haven't
given it out yet. But again, we got to talk about something. And Jokic is my MVP. I know, Matt, Jokic is your MVP. Bladen, I guess.
Yep. I wanted Embiid. I wanted Embiid just because I feel like at a certain point it was like I felt like he was due. But it's like I figured it. I figured he didn't deserve it as much as Jokic did.
I mean, he's got a case. It would have been cool. He won the scoring title and also offers what he offers on the defensive end. Yes, he's got help, but Harden has not played super great. I mean, he's on a world tour these last couple of weeks where he's 4 for 12, dates, looks like dates. His shooting numbers look like dates. Tyreek, Ben Simmons for the entire year. Harden has only played well for them for a handful of games, really. And then it's just Maxey. So it's not like his supporting cast has been a super team, as so many people like to describe it as. So I don't think Embiid's even a bad pick. Or, of course, Giannis is maybe the best defensive player in basketball, and also just hyper efficient and added to his offensive bag as well. And the Bucks are probably going to make it out of the East. So none of those are bad picks, but yeah, it's Jokic.
Oh, it's Jokic. Well, unless you guys have anything else.
I'm excited
I'm back.
I'm very excited for next week when I don't have to be when we actually know what's going on. And I said that last week as well. I'm just, it's just so tough to know what exactly is happening. Will Jokic actually win?
And that's where I'm getting with the NFL draft stuff too. Is I just wanted to be here.
So you actually have some results to discuss.
Yeah. It's instead of just being well, what if?
What if? What if?
What if? Well, pretty sure that wraps things up for us today.
Comes back, yeah.
What if we had this podcast go for 2 hours?
It's going to be brutal too, because the seeds are not set in the West
or in the East.
In the West, they're not set in the West.
Okay,
are they not?
They can still change. So I think, yeah. So
I think we're pretty much locked into Jazz Mavs, though, right? I think we are.
Honestly, I'd have to check again, but I think they could change today.
Okay, well, hopefully not.
Everything we said doesn't matter. Again, well, that's really the brutal part, is that everything we say just doesn't matter. Oh well. As always, tons of content coming away on all platforms. We'll be back Friday, talk about some results from the play-ins. Probably touch on the Eastern Conference a little bit more. We hit on the West a lot. Yeah, we have pre-draft interviews coming, I think, starting this week. Those will be up on the YouTube channel as well, so don't miss out on those. Tons of great content coming away everywhere. As always, from Corn Boy, Bird Boy, and Lemon Boy. We will catch you all on the flippity flop.